Hello. Hello, friends and beautiful people. It is Kathryn Massell, Conscious Creatrix, 5D Visionary. Getting a little water. Elevated Consciousness Coach. Hello. I'm going to be looking at two different cameras, so I'm sorry to confuse you. I am recording this for my YouTube channel as well. So if you're going to be watching this on my YouTube channel and you like content like this, all things spiritual awakening and ascension related, you're going to want to hit the subscribe button. And I can't see all the comments of who's here, but hello to everyone who's here and welcome. I wanted to give this talk today because I have this sneaking suspicion that a lot of people don't understand the importance of timelines and how on this trajectory of ascension that we are on, which is accelerating, that timelines hold the energy that are either keeping false paradigms that are out of integrity with the alignment of God, with the alignment of Source, is keeping these things alive. So it is keeping us out of integrity with Source. It is backing us up on our ascension timelines so that we may feel oftentimes like we are 5 steps ahead and then 4 steps back. And there is a reason for that for many of us who feel like we're doing all the work. We're on this spiritual awakening journey. We're doing all this work, but we feel like we're just not waking up. We just feel like we are part of an agenda maybe that we don't really have anything to do with or any say in. And that is true. And I don't mean to present this as a scare tactic. I don't mean to present this as like, you better watch out because the shit's going to hit the fan kind of thing. I am presenting this information always and ever, and you take from it what you will, as a different take on what's going on, or expanding your mind a little bit, maybe past where you are right now, about something that is, part of the larger collective of things that are at work, that when we become aware of, when we wake up to these things, we can gain more control over our experience, and we can glean more information about what's really going on, and we can make better informed choices from a place of discernment instead of judgment. Okay, so this information may make some of you uncomfortable. I'm okay with that. That's okay. If you want to click this off, if you think I'm full of crap, won't be the first time I've heard it, but I'm presenting this information because there is something that we all need to know, especially those of you who are feeling like, I'm having a really hard time waking up here. I'm having a really hard time having more awareness of what's going on. I feel like I'm not connected to my higher self. I feel like I'm not connected to my 5D avatar of self. Did a whole 5-day series about that called 555 over the last week. You might want to check that out in my VIP member vault. But I want to talk about timelines. I love talking about timelines. I geek out big time on timelines because there is such an incredible amount of importance around timelines and looking at them as vessels, compartments of information that is being held in such a way that it either is moving humanity forward or it is taking us out of alignment with God, with Source, whatever you call that, okay? The divine matrix, the 0 point of awareness, whatever you call that, however you define that, it's all the same thing. It's all the same energy. False timelines, let's talk about first what those are, because I think there needs to be some understanding about what false timelines are and how prevalent they are. False timelines are distorted historical human records that create DNA damage on an ongoing level. And if you believe, as I do, that there is no past or future, there's only the now moment, and expressions of what we think of as past or future is really just distortions in the now. So what is happening with these false timelines that are very, very prevalent now is there's this kind of white-knuckled grip on wanting to keep humanity downtrodden, on wanting to keep humanity suppressed in its awakening process, because we are at such an important precipice, such an important jumping off point in our ascension timeline as humanity, for the whole planet and for every human being and every sentient creature on it. We are really at this incredible jumping off point of moving into expanded levels of awareness, really evolving our brain, evolving our body, evolving our DNA. And this is such an exciting time to be alive. So creating the awareness of the things that are holding us back from this next level of our human evolution, it is so important for us to kind of ground this into our consciousness now, into our 3D avatar now, so that we can make better choices about how to move forward in integrity with our 5D timeline. And well beyond that, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But false timelines are distorted historical human records that create DNA damage, okay? Past, present, and future, even though there really is no such thing, but we have to, in order to make sense and create value from our experience here in the 3D versions of who we are, we use linear time, and we mark it as on a continuum, yes? So that we can create meaning in our lives. And these distorted historical human records, these false timelines, they hold different octaves of frequency, of vibration, because of the emotions that keep these timelines alive, these false timelines, because these false timelines cannot exist without human participation. And the way we participate in keeping these false timelines alive is through our own emotional reaction and responses. And these are these lower emotional frequencies, these lower octaves that keep false timelines going, have everything to do with emotional resonances that are out of integrity with God, that are out of integrity with Source, okay? So when you think about moving into, let's just say, fifth dimensional awareness and beyond, there is no polarity there. There is no duality. There is no karma. There's actually no free will choice either, because there is just alignment with Source being. Anything that is aligned with lack, poverty consciousness, limitation, is an inverse shadow embodiment of the creation code. So it is a false projection, a false timeline that exists here in 3D. False timelines do sort of kind of exist in 4D, but that's out of the that's out of the spotlight of this conversation, because that's going down a way bigger rabbit hole than I need to here. I'm going to stay on track with this because this is already enough of a rabbit hole. But false timelines are products, really. These vessels that hold these distorted historical records, they are byproducts of the frequency fences that are on the planet, okay? These are the vessels. The false timelines are the vessels that trap collective consciousness into playing out the same realities. It's a reversal or an inverse shadow embodiment of the divine creation code. And this can only exist, and these false timelines can only perpetuate with human participation. So anywhere you are participating in the paradigms of lack, karma, meaning you're not checking into where you are playing out. Many of us are aware we are in a culmination timeline where we are aware of all of our history of 3D, all of the realities and timelines of our 3D is getting wrapped up in this lifetime right now. Many of you are aware of this. I have a live on this where I go into that in more detail. But this culmination timeline is a really good example of where we're becoming aware of these false timelines, where we have, as humans, participated in perpetuating these emotions that are not in alignment with the integrity of Source. Lack, karma. We're aware of these karmic cycles, these patterns that we're holding, where it's like we're just hitting the reset button. We're hitting replay on these patternings, these programs of behavior that keep us in this carousel of thought, carousel of feeling, carousel of behaviors and actions. You know what this is. You know what this is now. You can no longer be in a place where, oh, it's not me. Okay, all right. You can keep doing that. You can keep pretending not to know. You can keep playing the martyr. You can keep playing the victim. But you can't do that and at the same time say, I wish to ascend. It is my desire to live out heaven on earth and to ascend. Because you are holding on to mutually exclusive frequencies. Okay? So anywhere you are participating in the paradigms of lack, disempowerment, enslavement, victimhood, anywhere you are holding on to this idea of poverty consciousness, right? feeling like you're not supported, you're not loved, you're not seen, the universe has abandoned you, God doesn't love me, any of that stuff, you can't take that with you, people. You cannot ascend and hold on to this at the same time. It's not going to work. And what it's doing is it is creating more false timelines on this planet at this time in 3D reality. And because of the holographic nature of this universe, which is basically this projection, 3D, if you can embrace this idea, that is a projection. It is a simulation of reality. It is a game being played, and you are fully participating in it. Your higher self is fully participating in it. It knows exactly what's going on. But because we have free will choice here, we can decide whether we want to participate in this game at a level where we are in integrity with God, or we are in integrity with keeping these false timelines alive, which participates in an agenda that is not our own, okay? That is not in alignment with the integrity of Source. By not collapsing or deactivating the false timelines that hold lack, doubt, fear, limitation, all those things that are keeping those emotions that humans are actively using to participate in false timelines, all of those things, if it's not cleared, if we don't collapse or deactivate the false timelines, by not going into the lack, the doubt, the fear, the limitation anymore, the simulation of 3D reality and living that out every single day, we're basically, as humans, participating in an agenda that is completely out of alignment with the integrity of pure Source being. Removing seals and implants from the DNA that's keeping this reverse shadow body, this reverse creation imprint alive via the vessel of false timelines. Removing these seals, removing these implants is just one way we can collapse these false timelines. Because removing the seals and the implants, this is really, and a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this, but having seals and frequency fences on the points on the Earth's grid, which also correspond to the human DNA, this is keeping certain enslavement agendas going, where we have to hold on to and participate in that process because we're drinking the Kool-Aid. We don't think there's anything different. We think that I look around and I only see lack. I look around and I feel only fear. I look around and I see only doubt. I have limitation. I feel my limitation. I feel like I can only go so far. That is part of a purposeful agenda. That is, yes, coming from the seals and the frequency fences and the implants that are on the planet's grid and in our human DNA. When these get removed, the false timelines naturally dissolve. The false timelines naturally deactivate. So what happens when you do DNA activation, and especially the restructuring, literally restructuring the physical structures of the body as a result of repairing and activating the DNA? It's like hitting the kill switch on these false agendas and hitting the kill switch on false timelines that are keeping humanity asleep, that are keeping humanity in darkness, that are keeping humanity in polarity, that are keeping humanity in duality, and playing out on just a reset over and over. These karmic patterns, the programming of limitation, doubt, fear, etc. In other words, our subconscious is severely impaired in understanding how this ascension timeline is leading us back to living in the God matrix, Source matrix. All the information is there. But if you are participating in, which is, yes, an enslavement paradigm, anywhere you're believing that you're the victim of something outside of you pulling the strings or controlling things for you, if you are participating that by the very emotions that you feel, you are keeping these false timelines alive, and you are participating in this enslavement agenda that is keeping the collective consciousness asleep. This is big, people, and it's really important to understand this. Those of you who I'm talking to who really feel like you are at that, that next wave of your spiritual awakening, this evolved part of self that's so big now you can feel it and you could almost reach out and touch it with your fingertip because it's just so close, it's right there. For many of you, not understanding this, not grounding this information, not bringing this home in a way that you can understand it, is keeping you in an opposition timeline. It's keeping you in a false timeline. It's keeping you in a place where you are in the vibration of everything that is keeping you out of alignment with source, with pure source being. Now, I experience DNA activation and restructuring as an integral part of a planetary repair project. Yes, a planetary repair project, a humanity repair project, because there is no difference between what's happening to the planet and what's happening to humanity. You don't need to look too closely to see that that's true. But I experience and I feel and I participate in DNA activation and restructuring as an integral part of a planetary repair project conducted not only by myself, but all the other DNA activation practitioners. I don't know if Antonina is still here, but an amazing DNA activation and restructurista as well. And anyone else who's participating at that level of repairing the planetary grid and humans and DNA at the same time. It's part of a collective of frequency holders, those of us who are doing this work as this planetary repair project, and more of us are joining the fray, more of us on that first wave of ascension who know we are here, we have volunteered or been selected to be here to carry this ascension timeline forward. You have this awareness that you are a frequency holder of this planetary repair project. Okay? And I see myself as part of that collective. And I'm on that first wave of ascension. I definitely identify with that to expand and evolve humanity's God-source connection. Okay? It is also doing DNA activation, having your DNA activated and restructured. It is also an integral part of helping the planet and humanity move well beyond 5D. Well beyond 5D. Now, you hear me talk about 5D a lot. But this is just really, for those of us on that first wave of ascension, we already have an awareness that's unfolding in dimensional realities that is well beyond 5D, that are well beyond 5D. 7, 8D, 9D. Many of us are playing in these fields of experience daily, okay? But this is an opportunity. Having your DNA activated and restructured, it's an opportunity to move well beyond 5D dimensional reality and towards 12th dimensional reality, and having this experience of bringing all polarities, all fragmented aspects of being into totality. This is what happens at 12th dimensional reality. And many people would consider this to be close to the Godhead, or at least at the jumping off point of the Godhead. But the truth is that 13th and 14th and even 15th dimensional reality is becoming part of humanity's awareness. Some people are opening up to this level, and this level of accessing the Godhead, this level of accessing pure source being, that yes, take it this way, even God is expanding. Even pure source being is expanding. And it's not that that connection is becoming further away from us, but rather see this as an expanded understanding of God, source, pure source being, whatever that is. That it just becomes a wider bandwidth of the highest frequency energies possible. And we don't even know what that is. That's expanding too. But this is a place where we move into 12th dimensional awareness. And now we're tapping into this idea that it goes well beyond that, into 13th, 14th, 15th. There are infinite dimensions, and then interdimensional realities in between those dimensions, all operating on different octaves, all operating on different sonic vibrations and frequencies. But what you may be holding on to, especially if you're holding on to dimensional realities and interdimensional realities, and resonating at those octaves and frequencies, you are participating in keeping false timelines alive, simply by holding on to emotions that are out of integrity with pure source being. So I'll say them again. Anywhere you're holding on to fear, doubt, blame, resentment, anger, separation, hatred. Did I say doubt, lack, survival mode consciousness? Like I have to scrimp and scrape by. Anywhere you are fully in the 3D matrix of lack and polarity, you are participating on the daily in not only keeping false timelines alive, but recreating new ones. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. And again, this is not meant to scare you. This is not meant for you to feel like, oh my God, what do I do? I'm stuck here. How do I fix this? How is humanity ever going to get out of this spiral? Well, the truth is that because of the polarity here in 3D, we are actively conducting an ascension spiral that is moving upward, and we are actively conducting a descension spiral that is moving downward because we have polarity here. So depending on how the emotional interplay of the collective consciousness is moving, whatever the higher frequency that the collective of humanity is holding is the way the ascension spiral or the descension spiral is going. So it's changing often, okay? And I will tell you, the more that we go into any energies around fear, opposite on the emotional spectrum of love, anytime we are volunteering, participating in feeling those emotions that are in alignment with the resonance of fear, we are keeping that descension spiral going downward, okay? And it's making it that much harder for those of us who are trying to be the frequency holders of more light and literally holding that flame that is the flame of the eternal, the infinite, the God matrix, the Godhead. It's those are the days where those of us who are on that first wave of ascension, we feel really, really exhausted. We feel really tired. So this is a collective effort, people. You know, when you think that here in 3D reality, this is a holograph projection, it's a simulation, that every single one of us is a thread of consciousness, a thread of unique, individuated consciousness that is derived from source. Strip away everything else. We are from source. We are of source. We are never not of source. We are never separated from that except through the illusion and simulation of the ego projection of reality. So we're all participating in each other's agenda. We are all participating in each other's emotional reality because an emotion is generated because of an interaction, an event, an experience, a shared part of reality. Okay? We get triggered by things. We get triggered by people, right? So we're sharing in this human experience together, and emotions are how we begin to disseminate the information to each other about what is real. So if what information you are sharing, because of your individuated thread of consciousness that is in fear all the time, what you are sharing in this holograph projection of humanity with the rest of the human family is fear. And that's just you. Multiply that times 10 million, times 100 million, times 500 million. What kind of projection or resonance do you think that's creating? And that's exactly the mana, the food, the fuel that keeps false timelines alive. Okay? When you think about moving towards, well beyond fifth dimensional awareness, towards 12th dimensional reality, bringing all polarities, fragmented aspects of being into totality, it's like reassembling all fractured, disassociated parts of self, bringing them back home. Coming back to this level of awareness, this expanded level of consciousness, there is no need anymore to seed the lower levels of consciousness. And when we seed the lower levels of consciousness, that means that you are holding these vibrations that I'm talking about, these emotional frequencies that are out of alignment with source. Sorry about that. You're continuing to play the game of duality. You're continuing and perpetuating to play the game of polarity. But if that stops, if that ceases, if you agree, vow to yourself to stop participating in reality at this level, what you are doing is basically saying there is no division of unity. And I'm not going to be that divider anymore. I'm not going to be the one continuing this separation. I'm not going to be the one with the emotions that I carry, the frequencies that I am carrying. I'm not going to be participating in recreating these false timelines anymore. I'm moving towards the place where there's no division of unity. There is no beginning and no end. Just spirit consciousness without boundaries. This is possible for us now. But like I've said many, many times, and I'll say it again here, ascension is not a passive process. And everything about our participation, our active participation in taking this ascension timeline forward, in evolving and expanding humanity and human awareness, is about the awareness that you have as an individuated thread of that consciousness of the whole. How am I conducting my daily life? How am I continuing to believe in this false timeline where I filter all of my experience through lack, where I filter all of my experience through separation, where I filter all of my experience through doubt, through fear, all of those things that are aligned with the very lowest vibrations at the emotional spectrum. We are at such an important point in our human evolution. And this is directly tied to our level of spiritual wokeness. And we can't be spiritually woke if the human aspect of us, or this process, doesn't go along with it. These are not two things, and they must be considered in tandem with each other, that there is an interplay. It is complementary. You cannot have a spiritual awakening process without a human awakening process. It's not possible. They go together. Okay? Sometimes it feels like oil and water. But again, that's about us agreeing to perpetuate these false timelines by the very emotions that we hold, by the very energetic imprints of our emotions that we hold. And this is creating an octave. This is creating a resonance. This is creating a sonic vibration that is directly communicating with the universe, pure source being, and saying, you know what? I'm keeping this false timeline alive. And you don't have to go down the rabbit hole too much with, why these agendas are there. Let's just say, I'm not one to perpetuate the polarity. So I try actively to change my speech around this stuff, around the polarity, especially having to do with light and dark energies, entities, dark energy, all of that stuff. I prefer to use the verbiage of energy that is out of integrity with pure source being. Energy that is not in vibrational alignment with pure source being. And there's a lot of energy that is out of alignment with pure source being. There is a good amount of it. And if in that energy, there is an agenda, let's just say, that would like to keep humanity asleep. Because when humanity is asleep, it's easier to dominate, to manipulate, to gain control, to create that false timeline of power over another being. And these are all false timelines, by the way. Anything having to do with power, domination, manipulation, control. But to the amount that we believe in it and participate in it, it's as real as anything else. I hope this makes sense. If you guys are watching and this does make some sense for you, I would love a heart. Or you can feel free to ask me questions here. But it is possible to occupy a vibrational bandwidth of spirit consciousness without boundaries. But the problem is that we are ultra aware of these boundaries simply by the limitation that we create for ourselves. There is no limitation. That is part of a false timeline. And we've drunk the Kool-Aid of that long enough. There is no such thing as limitation, except those which we impose on ourselves through our thinking, through our belief systems, even our good belief systems. The things that we associate with like good beliefs, that's still creating a ceiling for us. So it's still creating limitation. And that's creating a false timeline, yes. And I don't want you to be scratching your head here like, oh my God, well then what the hell do I do, Kathryn? A big part of this is being able to do something that evolves your DNA, because your etheric DNA is always evolving, it's always changing, but to the degree that you want to have a completely different and altered experience of your everyday reality that is filtered through the lens of the higher self rather than the ego, DNA activation and restructuring is a massive part of this shift. And I'm finding the more and more I do DNA activations and restructurings and removing the seals, these frequency fences, and there is a good amount of them. Not only am I seeing more seals and implants in the clients that I do DNA activation and restructuring on, but I'm seeing how much their spirit avatar is completely expanding right in real time when I'm doing the activation with them. And that's only a part of the potential. Because after the DNA is activated and the physical structures in the body go through a restructuring, which basically means bringing the changes that are happening in the etheric and the physical DNA into the physical, so that you can experience the physical, tangible, practical benefits in your physical body now, this only opens up a greater degree of potential. So just because, let's just say you would do a 12-strand or a 24-strand activation, that's just the potential at which that person can expand from after that DNA activation session is over. And depending on how much you are changing your everyday life, shifting out of lack consciousness, shifting out of duality, shifting into more of compassion, understanding, seeing things on just this kind of pulled back lens of your entire reality that is viewed through the lens of your higher self, and making the appropriate decisions and choices in your life on a daily basis, you are activating more and more of your genetic potential every time you make those higher and better choices. And I see this happening a lot with DNA activation. And this is if you are at that jumping off point and you're like, I'm not waking up. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel awake. I don't feel like I'm accessing my higher self. I feel like I'm still making the same decisions from a place of limitation and from a very diminished and discounted point of view. I will tell you, the frequency fences, these seals on the Earth's grid and on the DNA, the more and more we remove them on an individual level, meaning each client I work on, each client Antonina works on, each client anyone else here who's a DNA practitioner works on, that is being reflected also into the holograph of the collective. That is rippling out in the most positive way. And it is part of this mass planetary repair project that I was talking about. And just by receiving your DNA activation, by elevating your frequency, by moving into a different octave of dimensional, interdimensional reality, you are resonating closer and closer to pure source being. You are moving closer to your Christos avatar, your spirit avatar that is of the highest integrity. And it is the closest thing that we can access to being in pure God consciousness, the unmanifest. We are moving towards that rapidly. But doing things that keep you in these repeat patterns, these loops of karma, where you are aware that you're in the loops of karma, where you are aware that you are participating in the polarity and the duality, this is contributing to not only keeping yourself asleep, but the entire human family asleep as well. So we have to understand, as we move towards unity consciousness, it's not just about you and me anymore. It's about us. It's about the collective. And it does inform us to a certain degree on how to be more responsible, more accountable with our energy, how to be better protectors, better frequency holders, better guardians. If you are really here to volunteer to bring the ascension timeline of humanity forward directly, actively, in an accelerated fashion, it's about taking responsibility for your energy and making the changes that you probably are fully aware of that you need to make right now. So if you want to know more about timelines, we're going to be going in depth with timelines over a 5-day masterclass series, which starts on the 21st of this month. I'll put the full details here. If you want to accelerate past the false timelines that you are holding and collapse them, DNA activation and restructuring does that. I'll have information in here for you, and you can check out my website that talks more about what DNA activation and restructuring does, the benefits, what you can expect, and all that good stuff. So I know that this is a lot to wrap your head around, but maybe you want to listen to it again. Maybe you want to listen from here instead of here, and give it a good think. Just sit with it. And again, it's not something you can really try to disseminate this information to your entire being through the ego self. Ask your higher self, help me bring this information in the highest and best way for me to understand. And then just allow yourself to receive what comes in. Be aware of what comes to you in dream time. Be aware of what comes to you in lucid moments throughout your day. Ask your spirit team, your spirit guide team to help you assimilate this information into the physical so that you have a greater understanding of how this is impacting you in your everyday life. So thanks always, you guys, for watching. I want to wish you all so much love and light. Bye-bye.